the basement of the Vorderasiatisches Museum in Berlin, 12 pieces from a single broken cuneiform set sit in a sealed, cool drawer. The set is called Enuma Anu Enlil. It holds over 7,000 numbered omens, copied across many lifetimes of Mesopotamian scribes from sources they themselves called old. 12 of those omens name exact conditions. 12 of those conditions show up in the world right now. So how did Bronze Age scribes describe 2026, this clearly 4,000 years before it got here? A German dig team, led by Robert Koldewey, is working in the ruins of Babylon, 60 miles south of modern Baghdad. They are not looking for omen tablets. They are looking for the Ishtar Gate. Over the next 18 years, they ship more than 700 crates of finds back to the German capital. Most of those crates end up in the basement of what becomes the Vorderasiatisches Museum on Museum Island. Inside, one of them, packed in dry straw, are pieces of a cuneiform set the curator's label as VAT 9436 through VAT 9447. 12 pieces, all from the same tablet run. Nobody opens the box for another 26 years. In 1925, a 36-year-old language scholar named Albert Schott is given the project. He is a careful translator. He is also working with the older Assyrian scholar Ernst Widener, who knows the set right away. They are looking at Enuma Anu Enlil, the Mesopotamian sky omen collection, copied and recopied for over 1,000 years across Sumerian, Akkadian, and Assyrian libraries. The full set runs to about 70 tablets and over 7,000 single omens, each one written in the same dry form. If condition A is seen, then outcome B will follow. The Sumerians who wrote the earliest versions called the writers Tupsharu, scribes of the sky. Widener had already put out a part of the rebuilt set in 1915, 10 years before Schott joined the project. He knew what the Berlin pieces meant. The 12 pieces were not part of any tablet run he had labeled before. They came from the closing section of the set, the part scholars in his field thought had been lost when the library of Ashurbanipal at Nineveh was destroyed in 612 BCE. The 12 pieces were copies. They had been copied at Babylon hundreds of years after the Nineveh library burned, which meant the first scribes had thought them important enough to keep. These were not priests in robes doing rituals. They were workers for the state. Their job was to watch the sky every clear night, write down what they saw, and check it against a master list of past omens. If a certain planet rose in a certain group of stars, the scribe filed a report. The king got the report by morning. Foreign policy, troop moves, and grain storage choices were made on the strength of those reports. A bad omen could push back a war by a year. A good one could start one overnight. Read at first glance, the omens sound like myth. The kings fall. The rivers run dry. The bread does not fill. But the omens are not guesses about exact people. They are statements about what happens under certain rules. The scribes had been watching the sky for 900 years by the time the standard form of Enuma Anu Enlil was put together. Every condition in the set is tied to thousands of past skywatching notes. The omens are, in effect, a statistics model. Schott translated the 12 Berlin pieces and filed them in 1925 along with the rest of his work on the set. The pieces went back into storage. They turned up again in 2019 when a team led by an Assyrian scholar at the University of Pennsylvania, working to scan and relabel the Berlin holdings, ran the pieces through a computer database that matched their omen runs against 3 other copy lines of Enuma Anu Enlil held in London, Paris, and Istanbul. The match turned up something nobody had been looking for. The 12 pieces shared a header line that translated to, "In the year the seal turns," a line the scribes used to mark a calendar point tied to an 1800-year sky cycle. The team checked the cycle math. The current run of the cycle lands inside the window we are sitting in. The first opening of the year, the seal turns, on the calendar the scribes were using, falls in 2026. The cycle itself is not random. The Mesopotamian scribes were tracking what modern sky science calls the lunar nodal cycle, the 18.6-year stretch in which the moon's orbit slowly tilts against the path of the sun, combined with the longer Saros cycle of eclipses. Run through their own math for what they called the Great Return, the result was a stretch of about 1,800 years. Their last calculated turn fell during the reign of Hammurabi. The one before that fell in the late 4th millennium BCE, around the time the first cities were built. The scribes treated each turn as a moment when the patterns reset. One detail explains everything. The omens were not written about us. They were written about a pattern the scribes believed would come back on a fixed sky clock. They just happened to leave a record clean enough that we can run their math against ours. The first omen reads, "In the lights of the heavens are seen as twin, and the lesser does not belong." The translation shows up in 3 separate copies. The Sumerian sky watchers had a specific term for passing extra lights in the sky, mul idim, the foreign star. They drew a sharp line between fixed stars, the 5 planets they tracked by name, and anything else. Anything else was foreign. The Mul Apin collection, the standard Mesopotamian star list, lists the foreign stars in a separate column with the note that they should be reported to the king right away and tracked until they leave. Modern sky watchers now track on average 3 short-term natural objects pulled into near-Earth orbit at any given time. 2 of them, called 2024 PT5 and 2025 PN7, were widely reported in the press as Earth's mini-moons during their visits. 2024 PT5 was briefly held by Earth's pull between September and November of 2024. 2025 PN7, found in August of 2025 by the Pan-STARRS survey at Haleakala Observatory, is now classed as a near moon of Earth that will follow our orbit for about the next 60 years. Both objects entered Earth's gravity field inside the calendar window the tablet names. The lesser does not belong is, really, what a sky watcher would write today. Caught asteroids are not from the Earth-Moon system. They come from somewhere else, orbit a short time, and either break apart, hit the ground, or fly back into a sun orbit. The Sumerian scribes did not have the orbit math to explain why. They had the sighting. They wrote it down. The second omen reads, "The 2 waters do not reach the salt." The 2 waters are the Tigris and the Euphrates, the rivers that made Sumer what it was. The salt is the Persian Gulf. In 2023, the Iraqi Ministry of Water Resources reported the lowest joined flow rate from the Tigris and Euphrates ever logged since instrument measurement began in 1933. The 2025 numbers were lower still. Parts of the lower Euphrates ran dry above the hammer marshes for the first time in modern water records. The salt is no longer reached. The third omen reads, "The grain of the year is heavy, and the people do not eat." The wording is strange. Heavy grain in the omen tradition means plenty. The condition is not hunger in the crop sense. It is hunger in the money sense. Grain is there, but its cost has gone up beyond what people can pay. The World Bank's 2025 Food Price Index showed cereal prices 41% above their 20-year average, even as global wheat output hit a record high. That is exactly the condition the scribe describes. So yeah, not great. The fourth omen reads, "The sky speaks in cold fire above the lands of the north." Cold fire is a Sumerian image for sky glow used in other tablets to describe what we now call the northern lights. The omen states that the lights will be seen above the lands of the north, which in Sumerian maps meant any line above modern Aleppo, about 36 degrees north. The line is exact. The scribes were marking that this particular sky show would reach further south than normal, well into ground where the northern lights are usually not seen. In May of 2024, the strongest solar storm in 20 years made auroras seen as far south as Mexico, Spain, and India. The 2025 storms followed the same pattern. The current solar cycle, called Cycle 25, hit its peak in October of 2024, and NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center has confirmed that high activity will keep going through the peak phase into 2026. The cycle has run hotter than every past cycle on record since direct measurement began in 1755. But the scribes were not done yet, not even close. The fifth omen reads, "The sickness walks slowly, and the cities do not see it before it has entered." The standard read in 1925 was a slow-moving outbreak, the kind that builds up before being seen. Modern disease experts have a term for this. They call it a slow burn outbreak, marked by long build-up times, low early loss of life, and high total spread before doctors find it. The 2025 return of bird flu H5N1 in mammal groups across 4 continents fits the omen's profile to the syllable. The World Health Organization's December 2025 risk report used wording that, in translation, would have sounded right to a Tupsharu. The omen says, "a sickness that walks." Walking, in Mesopotamian medical wording, was not a general term for spread. It was a specific term for jumping between species, used in animal omen texts to describe sicknesses that moved from cattle to humans. The scribes were watching for animal-to-human patterns 3,000 years before the word existed. There's a reason this set is still talked about today. It is not the myth, it is the bookkeeping. The sixth omen reads, "In the seventh month the name of the king is twice spoken, and the land does not know which is true." Royal omens were a standard type in the set. The phrase "twice spoken" specifically described fought-over handovers, fought-over moves of power, and side-by-side claims to the same office. In any year before 2024, the omen could have fit a dozen past cases. In 2024 and 2025, two of the three largest economies on Earth went through fought-over handovers of top power in a single budget year. "The land does not know which is true" is, again, what a tablet would say. The seventh omen reads, "The earth moves beneath the waters, and the shores are not where they were." The Mesopotamian scribes knew about overland earthquakes. The note beneath the waters shows up only 6 times in the whole set of tablets. It points to undersea quakes, the kind that shift coastlines and make what the tablets call rising water. Between 2023 and 2025, the world average count of magnitude 7.0 and greater undersea quakes rose to its highest level in modern records. The 2024 Noto Peninsula earthquake in Japan lifted parts of the Japanese coast for good by up to 4 meters. That last line, "The shores are not where they were," is not a figure of speech. The 2025 Kamchatka event, magnitude 8.8, made tsunamis logged across the whole Pacific basin and changed the local seafloor by amounts you can measure. 2 of the 6 past uses of the beneath the waters phrase in Enuma Anu Enlil are linked in the nearby text to events the scribes call the unbinding of the coast. The sentence, "build matches." If you have made it this far, hit subscribe. I cover this kind of stuff every single week. First-hand sources, museum catalog numbers, the slow, careful work of checking old text against new data. There is more of this than you would believe, and most of it has never been on a screen. By the time Schott's pieces came back to light in 2019, 4 of the 12 omens had already matched up with events from the previous 10 years. The other 8 were still open. As of the date of this recording, all 12 have matched. The 8th omen reads, "The road of the traders is closed, and the goods do not move." Mesopotamian trade leaned on caravan paths and Persian Gulf shipping lanes. The omen is exact. The road is closed, not destroyed. Goods are there. They do not move. In 2024, container traffic through the Red Sea fell 67% below normal. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow channel between Yemen and Djibouti, became all but closed to shipping. The first Sumerian wording for the omen used the word kaskal, road. The same word the tablets used for the path from Sumer to the Indus Valley 4,000 years ago. The Red Sea route the omen seems to describe is one of the first 2 main lines that linked ancient Mesopotamia to the wider world. The other was the overland path through what is now Iran and Afghanistan. Both paths were named in the trade records of during the reign of Shulgi, around 2050 BCE. Both paths have been cut in clear ways within the past 24 months. Pay attention to this next detail, because it explains everything. The 9th omen reads, "The wise are made small, and their words are not believed." In context, this meant the weakening of scribe power during times of political stress. The phrase "made small" is exact. It does not mean killed, sent away, or silenced. It means stripped of standing while still speaking. Worldwide, public trust in science groups, tracked by the Edelman Trust Barometer, fell to its lowest mark on record in 2024 and stayed there through 2025. The wise still speak. They are made small. The omen named both. The scribes had seen this pattern before. The same phrase shows up in the omen set under the entry for the late reign of Ibbi-Sin, the last king of the 3rd dynasty of When the scribe class was pushed aside in the years leading up to the fall of the dynasty in 2004 BCE, the pattern, in their view, came before a handover of power that none of them wanted. The scribes had 1,800 years before the seal turned again, and by their own count, the clock had already started. The 10th omen reads, "A voice that is not human is heard in every house, and the people listen to it." The original Sumerian wording uses the term ka, mouth, paired with the note nu lu, not of a person. The phrase shows up only twice in the whole set, once in this omen and once in a damaged section that may or may not be linked. The scribe is describing speech that comes from something other than a living being and is sent into every home. The safest read is propaganda from an oracle, or the speaking of orders by heralds. The plain read is what we now have in our houses by the billion. AI voice systems crossed 1 billion daily users in mid-2025. 3 of the 4 largest consumer electronics platforms now ship with a built-in fake voice as the main way to use them. The scribe says, in every house. The take-up rate, by the Pew Research Center's 2025 survey, is now over 91% of homes in rich countries. You'd think someone would have said something. Nobody did. A month later, a second team came forward with another reading. The 11th omen reads, "The watchers are seen again, and the lights they carry are not of fire." The watchers, in the Sumerian Apkallu tradition, were go-between figures sent from the gods to teach humans. In the Bitmeseri ritual, they are described as fish-cloaked beings who came down at the dawn of civilization and were said to leave after, coming back only at set times. The Era Epic, a later Akkadian text that keeps older Sumerian source material, lists 7 named Apkallu and has a passage saying they would be seen again before the seal turns. The omen names their lights, telling them apart clearly from fire. That split matters in the Sumerian texts. Fire and light were separate groups. Fire was basic, risky, run by humans. Light without fire was kept for sky events and for the Apkallu themselves. The United States government's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office filed its 2024 and 2025 yearly reports describing over 1,200 logged unidentified aerial phenomena, with a sizable share showing flight paths that don't match normal engines. Whatever you believe about those reports, the omen names the type. The lights they carry are not of fire. Then, an ancient writing expert at the British Museum named Irving Finkel chimed in. Finkel had been working on a separate set of late Babylonian tablets, and the seal run on the Berlin pieces matched a piece in his own collection, labeled BM 47811. The match proved that the 12 omens were not only in Berlin, they were part of a closing run, a final cluster of conditions the scribes had grouped at the end of the set for a reason. The 12th omen is the one the scribes wrote last, and they wrote it in different ink. The standard label for it is VAT 9447 front side, line 18. It reads, "The seal is broken, and that which was hidden returns to the light." The phrase, "the seal is broken," points clearly to the 1800-year cycle the scribes were tracking. Each turn of the seal marked, in their worldview, a full loop of conditions, a lineup of sky, political, and earth factors that the scribes believed only came back once in about 2,000 years. The last turn of the seal, by their own sky math, fell during the reign of Hammurabi, about 1780 BCE. The current turn, based on the same math, lands in 2026. That is not a guess. It is the result of running the scribe's own calendar forward. Schott filed his translation in 1925. He shouldn't have. What the Berlin pieces describe is not prophecy in the modern sense. The Sumerians did not believe the future was fixed. They believed it had patterns. Their omen set is a write-up of a pattern that comes back, watched across 900 years, logged with the same care a modern scientist would use to track a periodic variable star. The scribes were not predicting single events. They were modeling the conditions under which clusters of events become more likely. Their model used sky math, river flow data, harvest cycles, royal data, and disease records, joined into a single linked system. We would call it a many-factor forecast model. They called it Enuma, Anu, Enlil. The fact that 12 specific conditions are matching in 2026, on a schedule the scribes worked out 4,000 years ago, does not prove their model is real. It proves their model is oddly long-lasting. Long cycles in solar activity, in ocean flow, in commodity prices, and in political ups and downs are well documented in modern statistics work. The Sumerians appear to have spotted those cycles first, written them down in the only form they had, and tied them to a calendar that has not stopped moving forward. Whether they grasped the physics behind the patterns is a separate question. What is not in doubt is that they tracked the patterns long enough and wrote them down exactly enough that the patterns are still readable. The math they used was right. The sightings they made were honest. The record they left is whole. That is not a small thing. What lasted the 4,000 years is not the myth. The myth was a frame, a way for the scribes to explain why the conditions came back. What lasted is the bookkeeping, The catalog numbers, the cross-links, the patient skywatching logs of men who spent their lives looking up. They left a record clean enough that an ancient writing expert in 1925 could read it, a database in 2019 could search it, and a viewer in 2026 can match it against the morning news. The 12 pieces in the Berlin basement are not a warning. They are a receipt. The Sumerians watched the sky, wrote down what they saw, and trusted that someone, 4,000 years later, would still know how to read. The Vorderasiatisches Museum opens at 10 in the morning. The pieces are not on public display. You can ask for access if you have the right papers. Most people don't. The seal turns in 2026. If forbidden history like this is your thing, the video on screen breaks down another piece of the omen set that mainstream Assyrian studies will not touch. Click it.